The thought of being a stay-at-home mom used to make me cringe. Even a year ago, I would have cringed. Something inside of me has changed, though. Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Ruby Hour. My name is Shelby Ring. Here in Season 2, I'm taking a more intimate approach. Stories around the inner workings of spirituality, emotional resilience, and sexuality and self-image in these times of uncertainty and unknown. My genuine hope is that you will find connection during this social distancing era through this season of the Ruby Hour. Something inside of me has changed, though. Maybe it's because I'm in my last year of my 20s and I'm looking down the barrel of my 30s. Maybe it's because my purely proverbial biological clock is, for the first time, actually ticking. Or maybe I've finally come to a place of peace within who I am that I feel a grace to slow down. I have begun pondering the raising a family, home life world, envisioning things like how your entire world from 2 p.m. on becomes dedicated to practical, tangible concerns. Driving, coordinating, seeing childcare friends, seeing other moms, focusing on making dinner, creating rituals for your family. And it sounds fantastic, honestly. I mean, isn't that hilarious that for my 30-something-year-old career-oriented girlfriends, maybe you can catch why this is so humorous to me? Part of me is just shocked within myself and how full my heart gets thinking of that side of normal conventionalism that the majority of people do, but I just resisted for so long. But I'm curious about this part of myself. This kind of sense of, well, where the heck did this person come from? I mean, even a year ago, a snapshot of my life looked like I had just brought in my first stateside, full-time salaried employee to my company. I had 2 women salaried and working remotely full-time with me from the Philippines. And my pulse or heartbeat goal was building a business up to $25,000 a month in revenue so that I could have a family and afford the things that I needed to raise a child the way I wanted to. The things that I needed to raise a child the way I wanted to. Have a full-time nanny so I could effectively be CEO and mom, make sure we could go on lavish, high-end vacations where my priority was that I could still be glamorous as this successful, executive, what can't she do kind of mom. Glamorous, executive, successful, what can't she do kind of mom. But you know what I was doing, right? I was modeling success after one of my old mentors who owns a trendy franchise in town. We'll refer to her as Mia. Mia is the most ruthlessly ambitious, power, significance-hungry person that I know. I worked and helped promote her for years, and I considered her a dear confidant and mentor to me. But what I didn't realize, or more realistically, I was in denial or had my own desperation that I didn't want to see, was that for her, this was a one-sided exchange. Now, the gift of eventually me getting sick and tired of being pushed off and rescheduled and finally speaking up, and then doing my own self-reflection and owning the role that I put myself in, and taking inventory of the gold and treasure that I found from that fallout is perfectly summed up in this memory that I have with her. We were sitting in her kitchen, or rather, I'm sitting. She's flittering around cabinets, appeasing her several young children who are screaming. She went through hell and back through years of fertility treatments to bring these amazing people in the world so they could be in that room. And we just came home from an all-day video shoot. And the full-time nanny left less than 30 minutes before, and if you hadn't already deduced or visualized it yet, we're in her $1 million home with a beautiful family, infants in high chairs, and she says,
"Look, I've had my family. I'm done with the whole having kids thing, starting a family chapter of my life. It's time to go full throttle in building my brand."
That statement shocked me some then, but it took me looking back to realize the gravity of that headspace. What's a person in that headspace trying to prove, get, or avoid? For Mia, those children weren't, I guess I should say that my judgment is that those children weren't about love and her marriage and building a beautiful life and giving them beautiful lives in the world. They were props, side notes, footnotes in the Mia story that I would imagine she wanted to read something like, trendsetter, mogul, what can't she do? Beautiful husband, X amount of kids, multiple franchises, 25 employees.
#unstoppable.
But when I reflect back to all of our coffee dates, always based around upcoming shoot logistics, the woman who sat across from me couldn't keep her gaze locked on mine, or anyone else's for that matter, frantically texting back to more important schedulings with high-end clients or ambition-feeding opportunities. When I look back on those memories, I see a woman that is terrified that if she slows down and doesn't have a fury of text messages waiting, that her greatest fear will be true. That at the end of the day, she's just her. She's not Gwyneth Paltrow. She's the same woman that she's always been. And I think that terrifies her. She's a scared woman like the rest of us, like me, and she does everything she can to avoid sitting with that anxious woman inside herself. And full disclosure, I will be the first person to admit that it takes one to know one, and I too have that part of myself, and I own that in myself. So I shared this big snapshot because this time a year ago, I wanted to build up and hide behind this big, daunting, fancy empire,
#girlboss
of my own making, and go 1,000,000 miles an hour and spinning aimlessly so that I could prove to myself that, see, look at all this activity, look at all the to-do list, the drama. You must be important. See, you're so busy. You're important. I think that from evaluating and getting a clear inventory and debunking the glamour of this supposed mentor, I was given the gift of remembering a real role model woman that I love and who loved and still loves me deeply. We'll call her Magdalene. Mother of 9 kids. My first love in this life was with her second oldest son, who we'll call Jay. You'll hear more about Jay and Magdalene after this brief break.
Please don't cry when I read these words. I've tried 1,000 times before, but nothing, oh, nothing could have bring me to say it was nice, babe. But I gotta give you back this ring. Nobody ever told you life could hit so hard. Nobody ever told you, baby, that I could leave you these scars. I'll leave you these scars. I'll leave you these scars. Please don't feel like you've been a toy. I've been running since I was a boy. I'm nothing, oh, nothing. It's gonna make me run as fast as a chance. There's something could have really last. Nobody ever told you life could be so hard.
Magdalene. Mother of 9 kids. My first love in this life was with her second oldest son, who we'll call Jay. He was 14, I was 17, and my summer before I went to ministry school, after I graduated, I spent every single day of that summer out at their house, or on some sort of adventure with him at Barton Springs, or at Mozart's or Spider House Coffee Shop in downtown Austin. Before that summer, I'd never been around a newborn baby. I was in the room when Magdalene gave birth to child number 9, and Jay taught me how to hold a newborn. He taught me how to have boundaries with enthusiastic 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 9-year-olds, and I learned how to be a part of a family that summer. Every room in their house was filled with some concoction of adventure, belly laughter, momentary emotional upheaval, humor, and impromptu stand-up skits.
Stallion! There he is.
Love was absolutely everywhere. I learned love can coexist with sticky countertops, can transform generic off-brand Bisquick into the best pancakes of your life. I learned that love can be found on noodle-laden kitchen floors, that love lived amidst hideously deformed Barbie dolls, mutilated through the extreme terrain of an indoor-outdoor mission operative, and that love lived within 2-year-olds running wild in nothing but a diaper and his father's motorcycle helmet.
Yes.
Generic laundry detergent, clothes left a little too long in the washing machine, warm pasta water, and dusty, dry Texas dirt is the smell I will forever associate with the first love of my life. I got to know Jay through singing with him and his mom on the worship team together on Tuesday nights. Jay and I mutually fantasized about our first kiss being at the altar.
I was out there alone.
He used to hold my hands in his like they were the most sacred things that he'd ever found. And when I went away to ministry school that fall, I would run my 10-mile loop around the Sacramento River, listening to Death Cab for Cutie over and over, and I would just imagine Jay was singing the words over me. I used to draw pregnant women eating avocados from cutouts I'd find in Runner's World magazine. And I would imagine that that was my full belly carrying his child, one of the many that we would create together. I gave no thought to money or provision. I was just in love with this man. I knew that in poverty, in waiting tables, or being a barista, or being a poor worship leader, that we would be rich in love and home and life.
But nothing could have been me to say.
The first time I morally and unequivocally betrayed myself as an adult was right after my winter break visiting home. My mom and dad told me I needed to break up with Jay. He's too young. He's 15, you're 18. He can't even drive yet, Shelby.
Life could hit so high. Nobody ever told you, baby, that I could leave you.
I don't remember anything I said on that phone call with him, but I know that I was in my living room of my fourplex apartment I shared with my 3 roommates. No one was home. Later, I remember my 2 19-year-old Oregonian roommates attempting to console me. It's probably for the better. I remember attempting to reason with myself. I had always felt foolish or misunderstood telling people that I met at my ministry school that detail about him being so young. But they didn't know the person that I knew. That was the first overt time I let fear of public opinion, fear of man, fear of what will people say, run the show and stab my intuition and inner wisdom through the heart. They say that hindsight is 20/20, but I confidently believe that we would have figured it out. Knowing what I know now, that 3-year gap seemed so vast then, yet laughable now. That was the first glimpse of when I began betraying my truth and giving my ego the reins to my life. Three months later, returning home for summer break, I entered a mundane world without Jay or his family, and I came home to desperation and isolation. When you go to a school that has supernatural in the title, it's a little challenging to find common ground with peers who aren't in that very specific niche of lifestyle. But I met a bottom feeder that, for the sake of this story, we'll call Saul. He's a graduate from the School of Supernatural Ministry from a few years earlier. He was disillusioned by a former relationship with an affluent heiress. He was skeletal, and his talk of politics bored me, and I began spending time with this person. Somehow, all of that talk of power and wealth beguiled me into mistaking little man syndrome mind games as genuine care, and This ego-driven behavior catered to my newfound ego-driven, dispassionate way of life. I remember him asking me questions like,
would you be comfortable flying on a private jet? How would you feel about owning one?
He didn't make me laugh. I felt really self-conscious around him, and I didn't find him attractive, but those are all disillusioned characteristics, and I'm supposed to be looking for a sensible, responsible mate after all. He's intelligent, his family has a large, fancy house on the lake, and it seems like they all drive Beamers. He's older than me, so that must work for the whole more suitable mate complex that my parents introduced me to. He broke my heart and left me to go promiscuously romp around in the Caribbean, only after taking me down a road of sexual promiscuity first. It was a major sin in my charismatic, evangelical Christian culture and the moral code that I honored in my heart. I had already betrayed my truth and my heart and the young man that I really loved, so what was a little sexual immorality anyway? That turned to self-loathing, and 8 months later, after I got back on my feet emotionally and recovered from being rejected by Saul, he showed up at my doorstep on Valentine's Day unannounced in Northern California, and we got married 4 months later. We were 19 and we were 22, and we struggled with wanting to have sex like every normal 19 and 22-year-old wants on the planet, and we wanted to honor God. So we planned our wedding in 6 weeks.
You're disoriented. No, don't do that. You're not going to be able to breathe. Oh, your oxygen.
The saddest thing is, I saw Jay all of the time during all of that. He was one of Saul's younger brother's good friends, both musicians playing in the same band. Jay would be at the house rehearsing while I was dating and then married Saul. At first, Jay and I would avoid each other's eyes as much as possible. He always hung his head, his eyes downcast. Every now and then we'd catch each other's eyes for a brief moment, and I'd see reflected in his eyes fragments of the full, vibrant person I once was. The joy and uninhibited smile I used to greet the world with. The ever-present blush of my cheeks from how seen and loved Jay would make me feel. The warmth that used to fill my palms when they were nestled under cover of his. I lied to myself so hard. I had to. How else could I rationalize perpetually being in the same room with the love of my life while being married to someone else? Jay is around 27 now. He has a beautiful 5-year-old son, and he just celebrated his 2-year anniversary with a beautiful artist. It seems as though Jay's done the same thing I have through all these years. I've looked for guys who can make me laugh and do a great Jim Carrey pet detective impersonation. He dated lingerie models. I looked for partners who could sing to me. He looked for artists. I looked for someone who holds my hands the way he used to and will kiss me on top of my head. He looked for someone who is his greatest champion and wants to stay up until 2 a.m. watching dumb YouTube videos of men ballet dancing in tights and making funny voiceovers and dying laughing together.
Stallion!
I texted him 2.5 years ago saying some terrible off-color comment about the guy I was dating at the time and how he reminded me of how we used to laugh, and something about how I envisioned Jay would make love to me like Wolverine, my Hollywood crush, or something horrific like that. It was not one of my best moments. We keep in touch via the occasional like or non-significant other threatening comment on Instagram. But the truth is, he still is one of the most beautiful humans I have ever laid eyes on. He has an entirely different universe now than the one that we shared together, sitting on the roof of his house, watching shooting stars. But it seems in our own ways we've found our own shooting stars. Loves in our lives with their own unique magic. I have this love that courses through the veins of my memories that I wouldn't trade for the world. The love I shared with Jay is one of the greatest gifts in my life. Moments with him have helped me recognize my true north in priorities in a partner. I hope that our small chapter of life together maybe had that effect for him too. So I find my heart and mind softening, opening to being in love and creating a world around me like Magdalene made. Moments rich with messy, boisterous, belly laughter, love, and family. Not some nice and tidy prop set for my perfectly color-coordinated and sponsored life, but a life immersed with sweetness of a vibrant home life. And my work supports this wealth. Real wealth. Not lavish vacation with nanny wealth. The kind of wealth that money, status, and branding can't buy. The treasure discovered in the depths of time we spend in the presence of our most beloved ones.
I finally found some eyes that see me from the inside. Nothing left to hide, not even from myself.
The Ruby Hour is produced and sound scored by our company, Ruby Riot Creatives, a video production and storytelling studio based out of Charleston, South Carolina. Music in this episode included songs by Muted, Binge Heard, Max H, Anthony Lazaro, Paper Planes, Jamie Bathgate, Skrilla, Stryker Big Band, a sample from Death Cab for Cutie, a sample I sang from a Misty Edwards song, and Jay himself. For these narrative pieces, I'm also including a visual storytelling component for each episode. You can watch along with these pieces over at our YouTube channel, Ruby Riot Creatives, on the Ruby Hour podcast playlist, which is in the show notes for this episode. This episode was recorded in Asheville, North Carolina. A big thank you to my dear friends David and Shay for letting me record in your amazing canopy tree-lined Airbnb. I'm including links to their amazing place in the show notes as well. If you need a place to stay in Asheville, I can't recommend it enough. And to the family mentioned in this story, you know who you are. I love you so much, and I will forever cherish each of you being in my life.
I wanna call you mine and kiss the night goodbye, and we'll be holding on to the morning dawn, darling. We together, holding on. Tell me what you want, darling. We together, you and me, holding on to the morning dawn, darling. We together, holding on. Tell me what you want, darling. We together, you and me. We can spend our days walking on the bright side. Never have to hide again. Together never has to end. And